Liam Byrne MP.
Prime Minister, thank you. You said at the top of the meeting that your vision for 3 years' time is that, in your words, I want people to feel better off. Just so we're absolutely clear, is the ambition that everybody in our society should feel better off in 3 years' time, including the poorest 40% of households?
Yes.
Now here comes the magic question. Will the poorest 40% feel better in 3 years? What is Keir's answer? Yes. Are we surprised? Of course not. This man has been building his career on the word yes for 40 years. Look at that. The man is still marketing himself as a moderate, considerate leader, but the reality is different. Joseph Rowntree says that this 40% will be 200 times poorer per year. Are you really calling that feeling better? Seriously, people can't even boil a pot at home, and he's still selling feelings. Starmer's politics are exactly this, not changing the facts, but managing feelings. What do you think, people? Is there anyone still believing in this feel-good economy nonsense? Like, subscribe, and let's discuss in the comments.
Yes.
So you'll be aware of some quite troubling forecasts from, for example, the Joseph Rowntree Foundation that says that, in fact, having looked at all the measures that the government's announced on the table by the summer, the bottom 40% of households are not going to be better off in 3 years' time. They're actually going to be £1,200 a year worse off. So what do you think needs to change between now and the end of the Parliament so that everybody in our society is, in fact, enjoying higher living standards?
Well, we need to do a number of things. The first is we've got to get much better growth into our economy and create more wealth in the first place. And that's why we've put so much store on ensuring that we took necessary measures at the budget to deal with our inheritance.
Now here's a complete flip-flop. The bottom 40% will be 200 poorer a year, but Starmer is still spouting, we're growing the economy, we inherited it, we're fixing it. For God's sake, stop it. What inheritance? You got your share of the 14-year Tory mess and you approved it in the Budget Committee just last year. Now coming out and saying we'll fix it is pure political amnesia. The economy has grown, but whose economy? Toby the hedge fund manager in the City of London's, or the mother in Birmingham saving up supermarket receipts? If there's growth, why are there still 6 million people surviving on rent assistance? That's the issue. England is growing, but those living in it are shrinking.
Resolution Foundation says that the freeze on tax thresholds means that the real wage growth for the poorest will get obliterated. We've got council tax going up by 5%, food going up 4.5%, we've got energy bills up 10%, water bills up 26%.
So taxes are rising, the threshold remains fixed, but wages are eroding. Who are they talking about when they say economic justice? The banker or the Uber driver? They've even set their sights on the pennies in the pockets of the lower income group. To make matters worse, council tax has increased by 5% and water bills have risen by 26%. Is this the new generation of prosperous Britain? The Starmer faction, which once shouted about tax justice, is now quietly fleecing the people by keeping tax brackets fixed. Those who once said, "We will tax the rich," are now suffocating the middle class to protect the rich's profits. They call themselves left-wing. If this is what they mean by left-wing, then Thatcher would be considered a liberal.
In effectively 3 million of the lowest paid, above inflation increases for standard rates of universal credit. And then on the other flip side, if you like, free childcare is coming on stream from this September across the board from 9 months through to school starting age. Free school meals are being rolled out, breakfast clubs are being rolled out, limits on what you have to pay on school uniform.
So the government's minimum wage increase only affects 3 million people. There are 67 million people in the country, but they're parading in front of the cameras saying, "Look, we've increased it. Give it a rest." What kind of advertising mentality is this? The so-called wage increase is just a cosmetic change that falls short of inflation. In 2025, Britain, children are going to school without breakfast, but the government is boasting, "We provided hot meals." Providing hot meals is not state policy. It is a humanitarian necessity. We are experiencing a new era of child poverty in the country, but we are still expected to remain silent. No way.
Well, on that very point, You'll be aware that there is still projections that your government has put forward that estimate 50,000 newly disabled people in April next year will be pushed into poverty because of the reduction in the UC health element of the bill.
This is where it gets hair-raising. We are talking about 50,000 disabled individuals being pushed into poverty. This is no longer a simple economic statistic. It is a moral collapse. The state is sacrificing people with health issues for economic targets. Where is this social justice? What happened to no one left behind? The truth is that these policies are driven by an obsession with efficiency. It's not people who matter, it's Excel spreadsheets. Starmer also says, we will incentivize employers. Which employers, my friend? What will you incentivize with a private sector that already doesn't want to hire disabled individuals? This isn't a choice, it's a moral obligation.
I have to say I felt ashamed. So what are the values that will underpin the government in terms of the policy making going forward so that we avoid the harms, the potential harms and the real harms that people are going to face, disabled people, vulnerable people are going to face?
But I think this is a really important Labour value. I think the fact that there are nearly 1 million young people out of work, not earning or learning, is a huge challenge for our country. None of us should be accepting of a system that...
The question is very clear. What values will shape future policies? And what does Starmer say? We will support unemployed young people. Nice, but Blair said that, Brown said that. Result? Neither of them could establish a system. Are we now expecting different results with the same words? A social state is not about words, but actions. If the values they talk about are raising taxes, cutting social assistance, and keeping employers quiet, we've seen this movie before, and it was in black and white. The truth is, youth unemployment is not a statistical problem. It is a national disgrace.
We must do better, Prime Minister. You mentioned about reducing poverty. This had the potential of actually increasing it. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Exactly. They set out to reduce poverty and ended up passing a package of laws that actually exacerbates poverty. This system is falling apart. It can't be patched up anymore. Child poverty is at record levels, people with disabilities are targeted, and young people are unemployed. Are you still calling this a welfare society? Let me be very clear. This government is implementing policies that are even harsher than those of the right, despite its left-wing label, because that left-wing ideology is now just a facade, an empty shell. What do you think Starmer's left-wing ideology really is? A role or a deception? Like, subscribe, and let's discuss in the comments.